And then you need to over arrow to get out from under that square root. And then times another square root. And that would be 1/30 plus 1/32. And then end that parentheses.
Wait,
Yes.
what do we do after the first square root?
Okay, I'm gonna slowly scroll through my things so everybody can look. Here we go. Second enter, bringing it up again. Okay, so here's what mine look like. Everybody's okay with the top being that 0.52 minus 0.55. And then I've got a big parentheses and then my square root. And under my square root, I've also got a parentheses that is covering the top of that fraction, that 29 times 0.05 squared and so on. And then divided by 60. And then I hit the right arrow to get out from under that square root and then wrote a times and did another square root, which was that 130 plus 1/32. And then ended my parenthesis on the outside and hit enter. And I got negative 1.93. If you do it right, that's what you should get. Okay, lots of us didn't get the right answer, so call me over so I can look at it.
Oh, I got it.
Good job, Keegan. For the certain fractions, a plus one.
It's plus right there.
Oh, that's a plus? Oh.
Do you see why? Yeah, and then it fixed it. Do you see why if you are on the free response section, there's no reason to do this thing by hand? No reason. Have your calculator do it for you. You need some help? No? You want some help?
Yeah. Can you can't have a college, they can be college.
Well then, stop eating it. Do you want this done?
No, it's good.
No, it's good. I love being honest.
And then what? And then it's times.
squared.
You need a parentheses in here.
And then do
Plus 31
Second insert, we need a parentheses there for the top part.
that.
times 0.07.
It's good.
More
And
than.
then
I
another
got an error
parentheses
in
here,
test, that's not good.
and then divide by
An arrow.
60.
Oh, divided by 60.
Sorry,
Okay.
second,
And then
we
arrow
got a
out.
second
And
insert.
then times the square
Okay.
root.
Did not get the,
Second
One
insert
divided by
that,
30.
did not
Plus
get,
one
and then divided by
32.
60.
And then
that's not big.
Arrow
Find my, zero.
arrow
So
out
basically
of
what
it.
you needed was
That's what
this.
they could do that, they could extend, what do you mean by that?
Yes.
So when you put this in your calculator, essentially it's gonna look like this. Everybody look up. You're gonna put in parentheses around here, parentheses around this whole thing saying that that's the bottom, right? And then parentheses right here, and everything else should work out by itself. So we got negative 1.93, which is what?
No.
Reject them.
Reject the null.
Accept the claim.
Accept the claim that
The manufacturer is cheaper than the competitor.
per mile, yep. The manufacturer sedans are cheaper per mile. Okay. Now let's try it using our calculator going a lot faster. So what? Tedious? 2 sample t-test. Again, we're doing stats. We're just filling in our stuff. 0.52, 0.05, 30. Everybody knows where I'm getting this information? 0.55, 0.07, 32. It is a left-tailed test. And this time you're hitting yes for pooled.
I was laughing at my calculator.
T-score is negative 1.93. let's suppose we were doing this test using p-values instead. Okay, it would have ended up being about 0.029. Is that less than alpha?
Yes.
Yes, which means it's in that little rejection region, which means you would reject the null and accept the claim. So if p is less than alpha, you reject the null. Yes.
How do we find P again?
P, I would have looked up, I mean, in this case, you literally can't with these t-scores because it's not on your chart, but if it was a z-score, you'd look up the area to the left of negative 1.93.
So you like take that Z-score and then switch it up, right?
If you were gonna do p-values, yeah. Okay,
We need to know p-values for the test, like, can we just always use?
for
that
sure,
p-values?
you have to know p-values for the test. If you don't, things will be
No,
bad.
like for this type of problem though? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Because if you did it with rejection regions by hand on the free response, that would be no problem. They would completely understand it. But I guarantee you there will be at least 3 or 4 questions where the question is only in p-values on multiple choice. And if you don't understand it, you will be screwed. They like to do that with rejection regions and p-values. They put it both ways in the multiple choice to check and see if you understand it. But when it comes to free response, that's your own decision. So you can, yes?
So what's the p-value like even measuring?
It is measuring the probability of that tail or that rejection. So like if you understand, so bell curve, right? So you understand this if I said, oh, we want to be below 1.96 standard deviations, right? Everybody okay with this? And it hits over here and you're like, it is. We're rejecting the null. Everybody okay with that? So instead of saying, this was negative 2.12, and since this is smaller than this, I'm rejecting the null. I'm comparing my z-scores. Instead, we're going to say the rejection region has 5% in it, but my value has 2% in it. Therefore, this is smaller than this, so I'm going to reject it. So this one is just comparing probabilities, and this one's comparing z-scores or standard deviations. And they're exactly the same thing.
Which one do you think is used more?
This one is used way more in the scientific community, not on the AP test. I'm just saying that like way more in the scientific community, because then you don't have to bother with, is it left-tailed, is it right-tailed, is it two-tailed? You're just comparing the percentages together. Because example, if I said to you, hey, your alpha from your p-value from your study turned out to be 0.02, you'd go, oh, that's really low, we would reject. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because usually compared to 5% or 10%, that kind of thing. But if somebody said to you, your z-score is negative 2.12, you'd say, well, is it a left-tailed test or a right-tailed test? Because if it's a left-tailed test, yeah, reject. But if it's a right-tailed test, then it's in the no, you know, so it's the opposite. So they often use p-values just because it's easier with probability. All right, your homework is, and I'm going to specifically ask you to start one first with me, because you haven't had any experience with this yet, and I want to give you experience. Page 432, numbers 14, 17, 18, 19. These two are by hand, and these two are by calculator. I want to do number 19 first. I'm sure which drives a lot of you nuts because it's the last problem, and that's very frustrating.
Okay, I guess I'll just do them all backwards.
But the reason why I want to do number 19 first, if you look at it, is because of this. This is what 19 looks like.
Or we use the data instead of stats.
Yeah, this time we're going to do the data instead of stats, where you put this in L1 and this in L2, and then the calculator. But it's besides putting these numbers into lists, you don't have to do a one variable stats on each and get the X bar 1 and the X bar 2. It automatically puts all that stuff in the t-test for you. So right now, everybody put L1, this into L1, and this into L2.